Chapter 10. President Trump's Anti-Free Trade Agreements Policy. In the 2016 election, President Trump received the support of many working-class voters who were frustrated and even frightened by free trade agreements that encouraged the loss of domestic manufacturing factories and jobs to foreign nations who produce the same product, with the same technology at a significantly lower money cost. As we have noted, Uchtel found displaced workers suffered mentally from the effects of outsourcing of their jobs, even if they were able to obtain other working positions. Obviously, then even for workers whose jobs had not yet been outsourced, the potential threat to their self-esteem and standard of living provoked them to support of a candidate who promised to protect workers from further loss of factory and jobs due to free trade. Candidate Trump recognized this discomfort of American blue-collar workers and tapped into this frustration by promising to remove the US from free trade agreements that allowed this displacement of US factories and jobs. During the presidential campaign, Donald Trump promised that, if elected, he would not only stop further loss of factories and jobs, but he also promised he would also bring back these high-wage jobs that had been outsourced. Trump's basis of his anti-free trade agreement proposal, however, was not based on the same principles as Keynes's attack on free trade in mass production manufacturing industries. Since President Trump has taken office, the U.S. Trade Representative Office has attempted to explain the basis of President Trump's anti-free trade agreement position in a report entitled 2017 Trade Policy Agenda. Chapter 1 of the report indicates that President Trump believes that the American people grew frustrated with our prior trade policy not because they ceased to believe in free trade and open markets, but because they did not see all the clear benefits from international trade agreements. The Trump administration believes that the problem with past free trade agreements is that other nations practice unfair trade practices such as unfair trade barriers to other markets that block US exports. Also that imports into US domestic product markets were being distorted by dumped and or subsidized imports coming from other nations. In general, the Trump administration believes the problem is that these existing free trade agreements do not promote truly free trade, as foreign governments subsidize exports to sell their exports at less than their costs of production, while US exports are discriminated against in foreign markets. Even if a portion of the large US unfavorable balance of trade is due to these alleged conditions of subsidy, dumping and discrimination acts against US exports, as suggested in this report of the Office of US Trade Representative. Eliminating these unfair aspects of trade would still subject the United States to a large unfavorable balance of mass production industry trade because the labor costs of production in foreign nations are still so much lower than the labor costs in the United States for the same mass production products produced under the same technology in factories in less developed nations. President Trump may have recognized the frustration of many American factory workers with the actual and or potential effects of free trade agreements on their lives. Nevertheless, the Trump administration has not zeroed on the fundamental economic cause, namely that workers in foreign factories are not protected by the United States civilized labor laws that cause United States located factories to have significantly larger money labor costs, even though American workers are equally productively efficient as foreign factory workers using the same production process. Even if the Trump administration renegotiates and achieves trade agreements that prevent any foreign government subsidizing its export industries or discriminating via tariffs and or quotas against the importation of products from the United States, it is questionable as to whether such Trump-negotiated agreements will protect American workers' jobs and incomes from product of foreign factories that are not required to remove all sweatshop conditions and pay equal money wages and fringe benefits per unit of output as American workers are legally entitled to when they are employed. What this book has demonstrated is that only if policy decisions are based on a Keynes explanation of the operation of our money-using, market-oriented economic system, can a trade policy be developed to achieve the goals to protect the living standards of American factory workers. This recommended trade policy is simple. Suppose the Chinese were to build a factory in California and operate it exactly as a similar factory located in China is operated, namely with child labor, uncivilized sweatshop conditions, wages at less than the minimum wage, etc. The United States labor laws would prohibit this California-based factory to operate and sell any products in the United States. Consequently, The same restrictions should apply to factories outside the boundaries of the United States that operate in violation of US labor laws. After all, would the United States or any civilized nation permit imported products to be sold in domestic markets if the foreign factory employed slave labor? Moreover, the United States does not permit imports of pharmaceutical or food products that do not meet the legal standards of the US Food and Drug Administration to protect American consumers. Should not the United States government protect American workers by requiring foreign factories to meet the legal standards the government requires of factories located in the United States? A simple trade policy would be to prevent importation of any products from foreign factories if those products and labor compensation and conditions did not meet the legal requirements that the United States imposed on entrepreneurs whose factories are located within the United States.